when David had those drops the other day, that gets a lot of attention.
Sure.
How do you deal with that? And we saw him kind of go through the same thing in camp a little bit last year.
He had a bad day. I was very pleased. The next day he came back and caught everything. Did a nice job. Those things happen. It's not an ongoing issue. We're trying to develop him as a complete tight end. I'm really pleased with what he's doing as a blocker and in pass protection. That's gotten a lot better. And you don't want to have those days. Occasionally they happen. It's not been an ongoing, consistent kind of issue with him this summer. And we'll move forward. There are a reason for drops. We identified them mechanically, things that you do to fix them, and he's worked hard on that. So I feel like it's a day that's in the past, and now we go forward.
Does he have the right temperament and work ethic to handle that?
He is an extremely hard worker. He's very bright. He has a lot of self-pride. He wants to be great. He's been a champion in other sports. He's a high draft pick, and certainly he wants to perform at the highest level. So his demeanor, his temperament's not an issue at all.
Hey, what does Darren Fells bring to that room? He's kind of the veteran in there.
Yeah, well, not kind of. He is the veteran in there, and he has, his traits. One are his size. He's 6'7" and 270 pounds. He's a little older than the other guys. Married with kids. He's been as a professional athlete. He's done the international competition, which is difficult. You're away from home for months at a time. So there's a maturity, his experience as an athlete, his professionalism. I think all of those things are great examples for the guys we have in the room.
A lot of former basketball players come into the league and they're pass catchers.
Right.
He's sort of made his name as a blocker. Obviously, he's caught a lot of balls, been a red zone player. He's made his name as a blocker.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Is that a little different than
if you've ever seen a picture of him in his basketball uniform, he looked like an enforcer. He would have been able to play with the bad boy Pistons, back in the day. So I think that it's just part of his personality. He's a tough individual. He understands that every athlete has strengths, and his strength literally is his size and strength and his length and his mind, because he's really smart. He's studied hard and learned to play the game, even entering into it at a late stage. He's very accomplished that way. So it is a little different for an ex-basketball player to be a guy known as a blocker, but he's built that career for himself, and he's good at it.
He went, 10 years without playing football?
You know what? I think it would be at least 8 because of the time at UC Irvine. He had football offers, he told me, coming out of high school, but felt that his opportunity might be better as a power forward kind of player, and so it wasn't as if he was just completely new to the game. But yes, it was a good period of time, and of course his brother being a tight end in the NFL, that was a good resource for him to kind of lean on.
But do you ever notice? I know he's been in the league for a few years now, but do you ever notice kind of the roughness of it, that maybe because he hasn't been playing his whole time, like some guys that's all they do, they play football, and he took that long break. Do you ever see that?
Not at this point in his career. As you say, he's been in the league several years now, and I'm sure there was some of that early on. He was a practice squatter, but we're getting really kind of the finished product, and having the advantage of a tight end who is at this age but really isn't beat up. Because of those years of playing basketball, he hasn't suffered the same kind of physical wear and tear if he'd been playing in the NFL this whole time.
Just getting back to Njoku, it seemed like last year he could make those circus catches, but some of the ones that were easier. Is it just a concentration thing, or what do you think it is?
Oh, I think that every now and then, all receivers, when it's really easy, they want to run before they have the ball, or that kind of thing. David has good hands, demonstrated by the kind of catches he's made, the spectacular catches. And occasionally, he's had a day like the other day, but it's been rare, and it's been better this summer and this spring than it was a year ago. So he's trending in the right way. We accept that it was not a good day the other day, but that hasn't been repeated, and he's addressed the things that happen on those drops, and I feel good about him going forward.
I wasn't just concentrating on that one guy. I'm thinking of a couple passes in games last year that I'm sure he even told us that he should have had. So is it?
Well, I think that every receiver you talk to could say that. He did not have an inordinate number of drops last year, and he was our third leading receiver and one of our leading guys in terms of catching touchdowns. We want him to be better in every area of the game. We do not consider this a crisis or an ongoing issue.
When we talked to you in the spring about him, you talked
Yeah.
about kind of refining his route running,
Yes.
some of the technical stuff.
Right.
Just in that month off, did you see progress there when you got back there?
Yes, his command of the offense, because we changed languages, was better when we got back. And technically, when we've done the one-on-one routes against the defensive backs, just working against man coverage, he's been much more consistent, hitting his depth and breaking at the right angle. So we have work to do, but it is trending in the right way. Yes.
When you get a guy like David and even Seth, who played a lot of receiver.
Yes.
You know, as a coach, how much extra time do you have to spend kind of transitioning those guys to this position at this level?
Yeah, it is different. As we talked about at the end of the spring, so many college teams are running the spread. So there aren't a lot of traditional Y tight ends that are blockers and pass protectors and pass receivers. So that's the area that usually requires the most attention. The good news is that those athletes that are coming out as college tight ends now are probably a little better athlete than we had in the past. There are more guys that were multiple sport players and have agility and strength and balance. So they can come along a little quicker maybe in that area. So it is ongoing with a lot of the young tight ends, but if they have athletic ability and enough mass and strength, you know, they can become a solid blocker.
And what are your expectations for Seth entering year 3?
Well, Seth is in complete command of the offense, first of all. He can play any of the positions. I expect that he will be a guy that continues to contribute on third down. He's a guy that contributes in kind of the intermediate area in the passing game. We're doing a few more things this year to get all the tight ends vertical. He runs well. It's probably underrated that way because we didn't show it a lot last year. He doesn't have the same kind of size and length that Darren and David would have at the point of attack, but he has come along as a blocker. He's certainly willing, and if it's in terms of blocking the edges and blocking in the secondary, we used him last year some as a pass protector in the backfield. He's quite good at that. He's smart. He understands the protections, picks up the right guys in blitzes. So I see him as a kind of a utility player who could line up in any of those spots, could play situationally, and if he has to go in and play on a regular basis, certainly can do that in the detached positions, the wing positions, and some at the point of attack.
Coach, you've known you for a while.
Yes.
Probably know him better than most. How's he holding up in these difficult family times for himself?
Remarkably well. He's a tough-minded individual. It's been a really unusual and tragic 2 weeks, and the players on the team, the people in the building, and certainly the staff, we all support him. We care deeply about him and Michelle and the girls and how they can weather this. It comes at a time when there are already enough stresses going on in your life with the beginning of the season. But Hugh does a great job of compartmentalizing things, and when he has to be the head football coach in front of the team, he's done that. And then when that's over and he needs to address the family issues, he certainly has done that. And we're hopeful that he comes out of this feeling good and we can move forward. His mother put up a long and courageous fight, so it wasn't a surprise, but at the same time, she's a long way away and it's difficult.